Alright, in this video I'll be talking about Hercules, the champion of Rome. From the, guess what, the Roman Pantheon. It's pretty obvious. Hercules is a warrior in Smite, and pretty much if you've ever heard of lore of Hercules, you can pretty much think of that when you play this god, because he's almost stereotypical of the lore. He kind of is really big, really muscular, has the Nemean lion on his shoulder. Good. Wields a gigantic mace that's probably as big as a small person in one hand, and his abilities are pretty much showing off unbelievable strength. So let's go into basic statistics here first. I know you're all dying to see what Hercules does, but that'll come later. Like I said, he's a warrior. For his health, he starts with 480, gets 86 per level. Mana 205, only gets 32 per level. Hercules, one of the lowest mana gods in the game, and this really plays a big role in what you have to build with him. Magical defense, standard, cross standard. Physical defense, he gets 18 plus 3 per level. Damage, he does a lot of basic attack damage, 39 plus 2.25 per level, plus 100% of his physical power, as is customary of physical gods. His attack progression is a 1-1-1.5, so the damage and swing time goes up. The damage stays the same for the first two hits, and then it takes longer to throw the third one, but it does more damage. Hercules can hurt you a lot with his basic attacks. You have to watch out for the big wind up he's going to bring at you on that third auto. As for his abilities, his first ability is called Strength from Pain. And what this does is Hercules gets more physical power the lower his health gets. So it's based off percentage of his missing health, and I don't know the exact number. It kind of differs a little bit, but Hercules will get up to 30 physical power plus 1 times your level. So early on, this is really huge because this means Hercules can get 30 physical power, up to about 30 physical power early game. And of course that means he has extra damage on his basic attacks, more damage with his abilities, yada yada. And you may be thinking, okay, nice passive, but like, why do you want yourself at low health if you because you can just die at that point? Hercules' kit is kind of based around him being in the middle of the fight and fighting for a long amount of time. His abilities kind of can really do a lot of damage early, but also keep him sustained throughout an entire long duration fight. Meaning Hercules is very dangerous throughout team fights. Even at 1v1, he's really dangerous. And a lot of that comes from his first ability called Driving Strike. This is Hercules' dash. He'll dash forward, hitting out, and any enemy he hits will be pulled with him and stunned and dealt massive damage and be knocked back a little bit. While dashing, Hercules is immune to other knockbacks, so you can't just knock him back while he's dashing and cancel it. As for damage, Driving Strike does 85 to 365, plus 90% of your physical power. This ability is one of the hardest hitting abilities in the entire game, and Hercules, once he maxes it out, can easily hit people for 400 damage without really trying. And it's what makes Hercules so powerful is this Driving Strike. It may be his escape, but he doesn't need it to escape. He can use it really easily just to do the damage or initiate, and that's what makes him so dangerous. As for the stun duration, 1.1 to 1.5 seconds. This can stun you for a long time if you get hit. It's really easy ability to hit. 14-second cooldown with mana costs going from 60 to 80. Hercules is a very powerful god because of this ability mixed with strength from pain, and his third ability, which I'll get into after I go through his second, Earthbreaker. Hercules smashes the ground, and sends a little shockwave of earth forward that does damage to all enemies. Now, there's a certain area towards the end of Earthbreaker where if an enemy is hit by that part of Earthbreaker, they'll be thrown in the air towards Hercules. So it's kind of like a knock-up leap sort of thing. It's an odd interaction to name, but usually you just call it Hercules' pull. because he's pulling you towards him with the Earthbreaker, but sending you up into the air. So the important part of noting that you are sent up into the air means that Hercules and his allies can miss abilities on you while you're in the air. So if you pull someone in the air out of a big damaging ability, they won't be hit. They're in the air, they're out of the damage area of a lot of abilities. So you have to be careful with it. Her Earthbreaker, more used for the utility, only does 60 to 260 damage plus 50% of your physical power. Not really a hard-hitting ability, more there for that pull. Mana cost 70 to 90, cooldown 15 seconds. So, I mentioned earlier that the reason why Hercules' passive works is because of one of his third ability. This ability right here, Mitigate Wounds. Hercules will activate this ability and he'll gain health every second over the next 4 seconds. Now, there's a second part to this heal. All damage that Hercules takes in this 4 seconds will then be totaled up, and then a percentage of it will be returned to him as additional healing over the next 10 seconds. So this is what makes Hercules such a dangerous long fight god. Mitigate Wounds is relying on him taking damage. So he's going to take all your damage to the face, then while Mitigate Wounds is up, and then just start running at you as he heals most of it back, and he'll start punching you in the face with a strength from pain bonus. That's what makes Hercules dangerous. Mitigate Wounds is one of the strongest abilities in the entire game, and it doesn't even do damage because of what it does for Hercules' survivability. So the healing per tick 15 to 55, so he gets 55 health per second over 4 seconds, and then the damage return as healing goes from 30 to 90%. So at max rank, not only will Hercules heal for about 220 damage, just by using Mitigate Wounds, he'll also get back 90% of the health you took from him. So if you do 100 damage to him, he'll return 90 health in 10 second every second for 10 seconds. So it kind of splits it up. The way the healing returns, it's not all at once, but it's kind of like it splits it up and returns portions of the health to you every X interval of time. I think it's 1 second, 1 tick of extra health. But so cooldown 17 seconds, cost 60 to 80. This ability is what Hercules' defining ability is because of his insane survivability gives you. Few healers even come close to the amount of healing Mitigate Wounds can potentially give you, as Mitigate Wounds' healing is pretty much how much health do you have, how much can the enemy team take from you in 4 seconds. So Hercules is really good against burst lineups because they're going to hit him with a lot of damage, and if they don't kill him, he's getting that health back, and then you've used your abilities. Now, Hercules' ultimate, Excavate. Hercules will rip a giant boulder from the ground and then throw it at you. Once it lands, it'll deal damage, roll for a little bit, deal damage to everyone it hits, and it can bounce off walls. Now, if it bounces off a wall, it'll deal damage to any enemy who wasn't hit. But if it hits an enemy two times or 3 times, the damage gets halved each time it hits the same enemy. So now, while he's throwing the boulder, Hercules will also be CC immune. So you can use this to stop Ares' pull or stop a CC from hitting you and just throw a boulder at someone. This thing does immense damage. This is one of the highest physical damage abilities, even by ultimate standards in the entire game. And this outclasses some mage ultimates. So it does 300 to 800 damage plus 100% of your physical power. So at low health, if Hercules is at low health and he casts Excavate, do not underestimate the amount of damage it's going to do because it's going to hurt. Because not only is it getting any physical power he currently has, but it's also getting all the bonuses from Strength from Pain and its massive base damage anyway. So 90-second cooldown, 100 mana cost, pretty standard across the board for ultimates. So going into leveling and strategy with Hercules. I mentioned earlier, Hercules does really well kind of being the front line. I'm going to take your damage right off the bat and not care. And his playstyle with him has to reflect that. You're going to be going into the fights very little care. You're kind of a berserker in the sense, but there's a lot of tactical play style with him as well. You have to be able to hit the Earthbreaker into the driving strike. So your leveling order at level 1, you take driving strike. This is your main form of damage. It does a lot to minions and lets you get some more free damage on them because you're gonna stun them afterwards. At level 2, you're gonna take Earthbreaker, and the reason why you take Earthbreaker at level 2, now to go into this because I didn't mention it, Hercules is most often played as a solo laner. He can jungle really well. He's also a really good support. I'm going to talk as if he was a solo laner because that's where his best role, I think, is. I think he's really one of the better solo laners in the game. Pretty decent at support, pretty decent at jungle, but I think solo is his best lane. Or role, I should say, because jungle is not a lane, it's jungle. So Earthbreaker you take at level 2. By the point in time you hit level 2, if everything has gone right with a solo lane, you'll have just cleared your 2 buff camps, and you'll hit level 2. The reason why you want Earthbreaker is so that you can get early game aggressiveness. If you hit an enemy player with Earthbreaker and then driving strike them backwards, they're probably going to die. Hercules does a lot of damage. You're exposing them to minions. You might push them back into your tower. There's a lot you can do with the Earthbreaker driving strike combo. There's a lot you can do with just driving strike too. So the Earthbreaker driving strike combo, you pull someone with Earthbreaker, they land in front of you. While they're in the air, you reposition yourself so that you are pushing them towards your side of the map. Towards your tower, towards your teammates, towards your minions, towards anything that belongs to you. You're gonna try to step so that you push the enemy towards them. Early game, minions are incredibly painful to early game gods. They're going to do each archer shot does 20 damage. Each melee can do 20 to 30 damage to you. They hurt a lot. And so driving striking someone into the minions after they've been Earthbreakered, you're already doing about 145 to them plus whatever scalings you have. And then you let the minions just hammer on them or they get hit by a tower shot, and you get a basic attack or two in. They have very little health, and if they don't have an escape, you can pretty much kill them immediately. This is what makes Hercules so dangerous, is that he has this relevance with the Earthbreaker driving strike, and he can just knock you into his tower. Or he doesn't even need the Earthbreaker. If you position yourself incorrectly at all, and he gets behind you, he's going to driving strike you, and he's going to mess your day up. Against a Hercules, you need almost perfect positioning to make sure that he doesn't ruin your day. That's why Hercules is so good. He forces you to have to account for him. At level 3, you're going to take Driving Strike again. You need the damage from Driving Strike. It's kind of your only wave clear. It's also the way that you're going to kill the opponent, if they get out of line and you decide you don't want them there anymore. Hercules has massive displacement against the enemy team. He's going to knock you he's got to control your movement so that you can get pulled, you can get driving striked. There's a lot he can do to you to just ruin your day. So then, at level 4, that's when you take Mitigate Wounds. Mitigate Wounds not strong early. You don't really need it at levels 2 or 3 because Earthbreaker driving strike's just so much better. If you are good, you're going to kill the enemy before they really have a chance to do damage to you, so Mitigate Wounds is less relevant. At level 5, you take Excavate. Hercules' kill potential is incredible at level 5 because if he driving strikes you into a wall and he throws the Excavate on top of you, it'll hit you, bounce into the wall, bounce back, and you'll pretty much have lost your entire health bar. There's just very little you can do early game against a Hercules because if you position yourself wrong and he takes advantage, you die. And there's no questions asked, you just die. At level 6, Driving Strike again. Level 7, Driving Strike. And at this point in the game, that you have an incredibly powerful single ability that is going to leave someone reeling in pain, forcing them to have to play very cautiously. Be aware for your Earthbreakers. Be aware for where you're moving. You are essentially forcing someone to have to play passively just to account for the way you're moving. It's not even how they're moving, how you're moving. Hercules is so dangerous because he's forcing people to account for where he is on the map at all times, or else he can just put you so far out of position that you can't, without you being able to do anything. Level 8, mitigate wounds. At this point in the game, you're going to be able to box with enemy soul laners. You're going to be able to box junglers. You're going to be able to beat junglers' faces in. You're going to be able to punish anyone who tries to fight you. And mitigate wounds just makes it that much harder for someone to kill you because you'll just pop it and start healing. It's the story of Hercules. He's hard to kill, and he's going to hurt you. It's why he's considered one of the best gods in the game, is because he can be very hard to kill, and at the same time be exporting some of the highest damage in the game. Level 9, you want another level of Excavate. The 125 extra damage per level on Excavate is just so tremendous. Level 10, finish off Driving Strike. You're now hitting for about 400 damage with one ability. That's not even adding into Earthbreaker. That's not even adding in Excavate. You could easily 100 to 0 someone at level 10 with 2 items. And one of those being a starter item and the other one maybe being boots. Because that's how high your scalings are. And you will just hurt. And if the enemy... And the thing with solo lane is, if you are fighting a god that can't fight, get away, can't really stop your Earthbreaker in an easy way, can't dash away after you've stunned them, can't really stop you from doing anything, that you're just going to kill them, and you should take advantage, and you should be aggressive on them, you should be pulling them at any opportunity you can hit it, you should just be punishing them for even daring to be in your lane. That is how you Hercules, and you are the biggest bully in lane, and basically if you get ahead, God forbid the other player tries to come back into the lane, or else you're just going to kill them again and again and again, because they can't do anything. Hercules from ahead is unkillable, and will kill you before you can do anything. That is how you play. Level 11, mitigate wounds. Level 12, mitigate wounds. At level 13, I actually really like getting the level 5 mitigate wounds, just to make myself unkillable before investing more into Excavate. I think just having the mitigate wounds at level 5, at level 13, means that you can't be killed, and you can fight forever. And Excavate, the damage is nice, but I think it's less relevant in the mid-game to have that. The extra 125 is less relevant in the mid-game than the mitigate wounds healing is for Hercules, so that's just perfect personal preference. After that, though, definitely take the third point of Excavate. You might as well. Earthbreaker's not really there for much other than the pull. Doesn't do a lot of damage. It might get you a kill late game just because you hit it luckily, but it's not. It's really more there for the utility of the pull. So you hit then you just level up Earthbreaker when you have to, and level up the Excavate when you can, and then you'll be a level 20 Hercules who's unkillable, does a ton of damage, and is overall one of the best gods in the game. So now, moving into the item build with Hercules. Hercules, I said, is a soul laner. This item, Bluestone Pendant, is so good with Hercules because of his mana problems. Because Hercules can easily run out of mana even with a blue buff because of his low mana pool. Bluestone helps him out quite a bit. Sometimes you can go Hand of the Gods. If you can get away with not going Hand of the Gods, that's really good with Hercules. There's a lot he can do without having Hand of the Gods. Having boots to start is nice. If you could probably do that. Definitely get healing. You definitely want healing potions, even though Hercules has a heal, because his healing isn't really that potent early game. You're definitely going to need this as sort of a crutch if you're playing Hercules, so that you can get through the early game with a weak heal. As for core items, Warrior Tabi are definitely core with Hercules. The 40 damage scales so well with his two main abilities, so you definitely want this. Hercules doesn't do well with attack speed, so there's no reason to get Ninja Tabi. Reinforced Greaves are just kind of bad. And if you do want, and Teleria boots, no one even talks about them anymore. They're just awful. After the Warrior Tabi, there are two directions you can go with Hercules. You can go tanky Hercules, built so that you just won't take damage, or full damage Hercules so that you'll be exporting damage. Personally, I like that Hercules is really good at doing both at the same time, being tanky and having a lot of damage. So I say go into Runeforge Hammer second. Runeforge Hammer only costs 2,050 gold, gives you 55 physical protection, 350 health, and converts a portion of your physical defense to your physical power. Even if you don't get another physical defense item with Hercules, this is still amazing on him because it gives him because the health on Hercules is just so potent. It's just so potent. After Runeforge, I would definitely go Jotun's Wrath. Hercules does really well with cooldowns. Makes him heal more often, makes him be able to throw a boulder more often, gives his driving strike a lot of damage and shorter cooldown. Jotun's Wrath is just a great item on most warriors anyway, so you definitely want it. So now you have 3 items. Fourth item, I think Magi's Blessing is a really good idea on Hercules. If you're ahead and the enemy team has a lot of CC, you get Magi's Blessing fourth item. If they don't have a lot of CC and you're ahead and you're doing a lot of damage and they're not really killing you very well anyway, Shifter Shield's a great idea with Hercules. The tremendous amount of damage this item gives means that Hercules can just rampage through the enemy lines, and since he's really good at fighting at high health and low health, Shifter Shield, you can get a lot of benefit from both of Shifter Shield's passives. So, really good idea with him. As for your fifth item, this is where I'd say get a little bit of magical defense. Bulwark of Hope with Hercules is just incredibly powerful. I really think it's a great item. Hercules hovers around 50% through some fights, and Bulwark of Hope, if you get below 25% health, it will give you a small shield that for 1 second will reduce all damage you take by a lot. With Hercules, since he can keep himself give himself a lot of health, that shield can save your life and give you enough time for mitigate wounds to pop. It's tremendous amount of healing. Also, it gives you 400 health. Again, health is amazing on Hercules, and gives you a lot of magical defense. As for your last item, there are 2 options I like to go. Spirit Robe, it gives you cooldown, gives you protections. It's really good. It also gives you damage mitigation if you're hit by CC, or you go into Magi's Blessing and immune CC. I think Spirit Robe is really good with Hercules because of the passive on it, and the fact that it's maxing out your cooldown. I think it's just a much stronger item with Hercules. I take back what I said about Magi's because I forgot Spirit Robe. As for actives, there's a lot that Hercules can do. He can go Hand of the Gods, get Hog 3. Hog 3 is preferable if you do end up with Hand and finish it. You can, if you don't have Hand, I'd definitely say Teleport's a good option. Hercules does really well with Teleport because he only really needs one true active. I think there's a lot of options with him. Teleport allowing him to move around the map and just show up in fights, really good. Purification Bead's always good. And then there's a fourth active that you'll see Hercules sometimes pick up, and that is Meditation. Meditation is usually considered the worst possible active, actually second worst active in front of only Eye of Providence. No one buys Eye of Providence anymore. But Meditation's a close second. Meditation, what it does is it restores mana, and at level 3 it will restore your health as well. Since most gods have few major mana problems late game, it's not really a good active because you can't sell it and get rid of it, and it'll take up a valuable active slot. Hercules, however, is a different story. Hercules has mana troubles through the entire game, and he really does need the mana. And so what level 3 meditation does for him is it gives him solves the mana problems that he may encounter late game, allows him to heal himself, which makes it even harder to kill an unkillable god, and it's just so good with him and gives him massive MP5 for after he activates it for a little while. So then he won't run out of mana. He'll have healed himself. So if you manage to get him low, he'll just heal himself and you can't kill him. And he'll just turn the fight back into his favor. So that's what I have to really say about Hercules' item build. We can look at some skins now. Standard Hercules here. You have his Golden Diamond Legendary. His recolor, the Lion of Olympus, makes the fur and everything bright white and green and like emerald. He kind of looks awesome. As for his special skins, you have the Grand Slam Hercules. He's a baseball player. Has kind of like a higher pitched New York accent. Makes a lot of baseball references. His boulder turns into a baseball. Then you have Hercules. Now, there were a lot of complaints when Hercules was remodeled about a year ago that his head was too small. He doesn't have a huge head, and he also lost his beard. Hercules is taking the head complaint and making it extreme. His head becomes tiny, his voice high-pitched, and he gets the derp eyes. It's probably one of the funniest skins I've ever seen, and he keeps all his normal voice lines, they're just much higher. So he's still incredibly serious with the highest voice, with an incredibly high-pitched voice. His boulder also turns into like this metal spiky ball. And finally, you have La Roca. And La Roca means Hercules is now a wrestler. An interesting thing to note, the tattoo he has is actually his Nemean lion. And his giant mace club thing turns into a chair. I hope you enjoy that. And also, his boulder is now a pinata. So, La Roca, pretty ridiculous in its own right. Hercules, Grand Slam, all fun skins. Hercules is probably the silliest skins for the most serious god in the game. Alright, enjoy your Herculesing. I hope you become unkillable.